Alright, welcome back. Actually, I had a whole, I guess, 3 or 4 videos about the terrain, and then Unigine decided to install or release 2.15. And so I got the 2.15, uninstalled 2.14, and now I got 2.15, and I feel like I gotta make a new one out of it. So let's begin. Just press create new. I'm gonna call it terrain and then C# just for now, just to show you guys, and we'll just create a new project. And while it's creating, we're gonna go on to this website. It's called dimensionmedia.com home terrain sculptor. This is gonna be our program which will make us a terrain. I already have it downloaded and installed, so once you're actually done downloading and installing it, we'll open it. I got it right here, so I'm just gonna open it. What this program will allow us to do is to create a height map and masks. So when we actually make it an import into Unigine, it will easily work for us. God damn it, not now. Alright, so we have a few options. We can import our terrain, meaning we can import our own height maps. We can open projects and all that stuff, but since we're making a new one, I'm just gonna press new. You can do whatever size you want. I'll just do 512 for display purposes only. Now, the first thing you're ever gonna do is have a noise map, and that's the first option. I know generate is there, but I'm not really gonna use that yet. We're gonna do it a little faster, so let's just use noise map. Use one of the options. Once you click on an option, it will show you its projection and what it will look like after you do stuff. So what you do is you just play around with it, seed it, randomize, use some presets, and get like a terrain that you really like. I personally don't know what I want, so I'm not even gonna eeny, meeny, miny, mo. The hell? That looks crazy. You know what? We're gonna use that. So we're just gonna randomize it so it doesn't look too well planned. Maybe the details a bit too much. Let's change a little bit of layout. Let's make it a little too detailed. Yeah, that looks cool enough. So now we have it over here. We press play and it's immediately here. What we want to do is go to material, change from material type to color set, and then we got our colors in there. So now we actually have a color map. I think it's too rough for anybody to actually move in there. Or let's say if you did want it. We can add a few transformations and erosions. So we're just gonna add an erosion. So we go up here on erosion, and then we're gonna click thermal. Thermal means heat erosion. Well, by the name, you'll know that. So let's just add a few differences. I can go into detail what they do, but the best thing to do is always play around with it. Press the preview button, it will show you the erosion. So in our case, if you look at the difference, it gave us a more blur in some areas while other areas are still sharp. And that also means where. So in our cases, if we make a specific, in that height is going to be an erosion instead. So if we do it, now we have erosions in that area. Let's just add more time into it so it gives a more softer slope. Now, the reason why we do erosions, I'm not going to use it, but the reason why you would use an erosion, let's say a rain erosion, what I'll do is, let's click on a quarter and press preview. What you'll notice is, it smoothens the area. Let's actually make it a half. And it gives it that rainy look onto it, like it rained on top of it. You know what? I like the way it looks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to use it as a mask. So what will happen is we click save the master disk, and what will happen is that when we save the height map, we're going to save this as a mask image, which is black and white. And that will give us areas so that when Unigine picks up those black and white, we could do some detailing into it. So I'm going to keep both the erosion and sediment masks. I'm going to keep it at, I think PNG 8-bit works wonders. So I'm just going to choose a folder where I'm going to keep this in. I will most likely just keep it in desktop. Probably create a folder here, to be honest. Folder, call it terrain, and would you look at that, I have the tutorials. So terrain, and I'm just gonna keep it in there. So let's do that, and then we press OK. Since we press the tick over here, it's gonna save it in our folder. So now that we click on it, you can notice that they are black and white. The white is where the movement of the rain is. The black is where it did not change. And then the other thing is just the sediments, where all the stuff from the white landed on. So if you're gonna do like small details, this is gonna be perfect. The other details we can do is actually weight maps, and this one's a little bit easier to understand. Altitudes. Choosing the specific area that you want covered. So in our cases, let's say the peaks. We have the peaks now selected as white, and the black is everything under it. So we can actually save this as a PNG. And when we do save it, what will happen is now we can specifically edit those areas. So for example, I got these peaks. I'm just gonna, where do we go? Alright, let's go to terrain. Inside here, just gonna call it peaks, and then we save it, and then press the save button. It should save it, and right here. We can also take the inversion of it. That's if you want to be technical about it. I think we're okay. And if you need something more interesting, what we can do is go back to weight maps, and we could take flow line or flow maps. I'm gonna click flow maps. We're gonna use, I think, there we go. Just lower, higher iterations. No, a little bit. No, we need a good contrast. Actually, a little bit of gray doesn't matter, because what will happen is that gray will become a little bit of mixing opacity inside this. So we're gonna do it here, and now that we actually have flow, we can literally just call it flow map. I'm gonna save it. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna invert it, and now I'm gonna take this as the flow inverse. So now we're gonna write inverse map. Now I think we have enough maps. I'm not too sure. I mean, you could go beyond, but that really depends on you. Let's take a slope map actually. It'd be easier to understand when we look at it from there. So something around here. No, that's too much fall off. We're gonna have to do something like this. Yeah, that looks good. So now we actually have a slope weight map. If you just look at the map and understand it, anything that's steep would be the black, and anything that's about flat would be the white. We can always invert it and have it the other way around. The white is the let's actually give it a detail like this. Okay, so now we have a very specific mask. This one, we'll see what we can use with this, but for now we'll just call it slope map. We'll save it, and then we'll reverse it, and we'll call it inverse, because now we're actually looking at the flat areas. So now we're going to call it slope inverse map. Save. Alright, close. And I guess we got enough maps, because I don't think we need any more. So what we're going to do is we're going to first go to tools. We're going to save the color set bitmap, because I like this black and reddish color, so let's just save that actually. Oops, wrong button. where'd it go? Tools. Yep. Save color set bitmap, and we're gonna save it in the same place. So desktop, terrain. We're gonna use PNG. We're just gonna call it albedo, which means the color. And we're gonna save that. Now once that's done, what we're gonna do is actually we're gonna save the height map itself. So file, export terrain, and then we have it as a .3ds. We're gonna change it. We're not really gonna use 3ds. We're gonna use a height map. So the best one would be a PNG RGB24, or a TIFF. I wonder if they have the TIFF right here. There you go, TIFF. Oh, I already have an old one that I was doing for the old tutorial, and then they switched it up. So anyways, we use it in terrain. I'm gonna call it height map, and then save it. 16 bits grayscale, everything. Let's just keep it as it is and save. So now that we go back here, we actually have a lot of them. I'm just gonna delete this backup, and we have quite a lot of stuff. We got the albedo, which is the color. We got the inverse flow. We got the flow itself, the height map, beautiful. And then we got the peaks. We got the erosion, sediments, inverse of the slope, and the slope itself. So this is quite a lot of details, and I think we're good. And if you want, you could just save the project. But if you already have the height map, you don't need to save the project, because you can just load up the height map again. So anyways, now we're in our SDK. What we're gonna do is now we're actually gonna transfer it. So let's open the editor. Once we open the editor, we're gonna have to import our maps. Now 2.15 looks a little different from 2.14, but everything's almost the same. When you open your Unigine, you're gonna notice that things look exactly the same with the demo picture. So the 1, 2, 3 buttons over here are your camera speed. I'm just gonna choose 2. Hold the right click button and then move with WASD. Q to go down, and E to elevate. So that's movement. What I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna just take all of this and just press delete. I'm gonna also delete these 2 files. We don't need them, so we're just gonna delete them. Once they're done, what we're gonna do is right click into the black, into the void. We're gonna add a light, and we're gonna add a world light. Just click it, and now we have a world light. Blessed. Now this is our sun. What we're gonna do is, yes, the sun, too small. Anyways, what we're gonna do is right click, landscape, and landscape terrain, and just give it a few seconds for it to load it up. And now we have a landscape, and you'll notice already we have a landscape with a square piece. Well, of course it's perspective, so it's skewed a bit, but it's a square piece that's just flat. What we're gonna do is we're just gonna open it, and that's gonna be our landscape layer map, and that's where we're gonna actually add our stuff in. So what we're gonna do is we take our terrain, and I'm just gonna import it into our data file, and we have all of them imported. Now TIFFs, PNGs work wonders. If you use RAW, if you use the other image formats, you're gonna have a little bit of problems, but 99% of the time it won't matter, so that's all good. So now we're back here. What we're gonna do is you'll notice that I'll just go up back on data. You'll notice that it says it's a read-only asset. So what we have to do is we actually have to create a new one. So how are we gonna do this? Beautiful. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna press the plus button right here. When we do that, it's gonna create us a new landscape layer map, which is right here, and let's just call it custom map. That's gonna be our map. So we're gonna re-import, before we re-import it, we're just gonna edit all of our stuff. So all the terrain stuff that's here, we're gonna add them here, and then we're gonna import it, and it's gonna automatically affect here. So how do we do this? First, we change from compression to lossless, and then data filling from tile sets. We kept our height map into one tile, which is much more efficient than a tile set. We have the ability to make tile sets, and I can show you in the program, but it's not useful because Unigine has the ability to make like 1,000 of these, and they can overlap each other, add on top of each other, help each other up. So it's not really useful per se. So it's better off just making your own. But if you do want to do it, I'll show you. But for now, let's just go back here. Lossless, tile set, and then we go back into terrain, and we will add our stuff. So the first things first, our height map without opacity. We're gonna add just the normal height map. It's gonna be normalized, and then we're just gonna throw our height map into where it says solid black. Now the height is what we're gonna define its slopes. Minimum is gonna stay 0. 1 we can do 50. We'll do 50 meters first. We'll check how it is, and then afterwards we can change it. Albedo is our color. We're just gonna use only albedo, and then we're gonna throw our albedo in there, and then it's an alpha blend. Additive overlay multiplicative only works if you're adding like multiple at the same time, and you're just gonna mix albedos together. For now, we're just using one, so we're just gonna use alpha blend. All right. Now let's go into masks. This is the most important ones. For each mask that you have, it's good practice to just change the name of it. So we're making flow inverse, and then change from data to only mask. Put the flow inverse in here and keep it alpha blend, and do it for each one of them. All right. Alright, once we've added all of them, we actually got to the point where we're not even going to use all of them at all. We just used about 6, and maybe we might not even use all 6. But so far, we got all 6. Let's apply it, and then we re-import the data. Now once we re-import it, we have it in our world. Now as you can see, once we click on here, you'll notice that our height scale's a little awkward. So let's just give it a bit more height scale, and doesn't look too bad, but it's not what we were looking at. So what we're gonna do is did we change the size? Yes, we did. 512 by 512. That was the original size that we had, and now it looks about the same as how we had it. So as you can see, all of our stuff has been added, and then you'll notice that the maps haven't been really added because they're masks. But in actuality, if we go into helpers, we go into landscape data, and now let's just click flow inverse, you'll notice that it's actually colored exactly like how the flow inverse is. It's a little grayish with a little black lines here and there, which shows that it's not going to be mapped over there and all. So now if we go back to the landscape data, switch to peaks, let's give it a second, and all the peaks have been colored white. And then let's just go back and remove it. So now we got a basic height map data on top of our landscape. What we're going to do next is we're actually going to make it a little bit more realistic, and this is where another program comes in along. So let's just go to this website, Polyhaven, and for homework I need y'all to get a certain terrain. So in my case, mine is lava-ish. I can always change it, but we'll see where it goes. What we're gonna do is now we go into Polyhaven, we click on textures, and then we have a few free textures. These are CCO, so that means if you make money off them, they're not gonna ask for anything. They're simple enough, you're free to use them as much as you want. Just support them if you can. Now just choose a few terrain textures you like. It doesn't have to be exactly how many your masks are. So in my case, I have 6 masks. Make that 7. I have 7 masks. It doesn't mean I only get to keep 7 of these. You can make as many or as little as you want. So for homework, just choose the ones that you want, and then from there, next episode, what I'm gonna do, or a continuation of whatever I'm gonna do from this episode, is we're going to add these tessellated textures into our terrain, and it's gonna give it that realistic look into it. And then afterwards, we're gonna do a bit more, adding rocks and trees and all that, and simple stuff. All right, so hope that helped. We're gonna do next episode as soon as possible. I might as well just do it like 24 hours from now on, or maybe even like in a few hours if the whole thing gets ready. But anyways, I'm gonna Control S, save it, and we have our very first simple terrain. From here, we can go beyond. I chose a 512 by 512 just for demonstration purposes, but you can go even beyond. You'll notice one thing with Unigine is when you go up and down, or when you go further up, there's a little bit of draw differences. So what that is actually is when you're really far away and it has to draw it, it's not going to draw it in full 100%. That's what makes Unigine unique. It can make infinite world, but it's not going to draw it all at the same time. It's only going to get more detailed as you get close by, and then it gets, well, detailed, right? So anyways, we're gonna see you next time, and goodbye.